Here we are. Okay, so what you were looking at is the Rainbow dashboard. Now, granted, I am not a Rainbow agent. Obviously, I'm an employee here, so I'm using the demo version. There may be a thing or two that like gets a little wonky or looks a little different. Forgive it. It's just because it's the demo environment that I have to do things in, so that we're not actually creating production stage policies, but everything should work fine. And if there is a little bit of something, it won't be a big deal. All right. So that said, this is what it's going to look like when you log in. All on the left-hand side is going to be policies, quote, settings, resources. These are pretty self-explanatory. Any bound policies that you have, you can get in and access here. And it's always great to kind of showcase this for a moment because there's a lot of self-service type stuff that you can do. Obviously, download the policy is an easy one, but request an endorsement, file a claim. If an insured is late in payments, you can get in here and update their credit card information. That option pops up if they're late. So there's a lot of self-service type stuff that you can do here within the policies, and I would definitely recommend you check, particularly when it comes to this request and endorsement or the claims. You fill out this very short form. Obviously, there's not a whole lot to it. We give you an opportunity to kind of add anything else in for descriptions if you need like specific wording, that sort of thing. And our underwriting team takes a look at it pretty much right away. Additionally, along those lines, settings, pretty self-explanatory. You get your name, email address, you can update passwords. Resources will bridge out to our agent resources on Use Rainbow. And we'll show you Use Rainbow here in just a moment, but Morgan has done a phenomenal job of partnering with our underwriting team and making sure that we get all kinds of documents available for you and for your insurers as resources for writing with Rainbow and just generally operating a safe business. But we are never done. We love to hear from you. We would love to grow the different marketing materials that we provide that would help service you. So please reach out to Morgan and I, or Morgan or I, and we can definitely work on building you something if you don't see it here on this list. But just wanted to point that out because it's a great opportunity for you to bridge over and get some of the stuff that it is that you might need. Okay, so I have showed you everything except for hopping straight into a quote, which this is, our quote screen that we've already made, and you'll see a bunch of stuff here made by, the employees here. And just as we go through and test, Brandi and I usually host this together. She had something to pull her away today, but here's one that I've made, right? So we go in here and we create all these drafts, and this is what it'll look like for you too. If something is ready to be bound, you'll obviously have that status. If nothing has been sent to our underwriting team yet, it still needs some completion. You'll have draft, referred versus referral. Referred is when you have sent it. Referral is when it is able to be sent. If you're ever in doubt, just hop in there and make sure that you have clicked that refer button. So our underwriters know to take a look at it. Now, they actively scan through all the channels for both declines and referrals to make sure that they're catching anything in case that's missed. But it'll just help get their eyes on it a little bit sooner if you make sure you hit that refer button. Right? So there's a lot of different, and even with a decline, you're not going to have an opportunity to hit a refer button in the decline menu. However, one of the things that we're working on helping create a better customer journey for you is understanding that a decline at Rainbow is not necessarily a decline. One of the things that makes us truly special in the insurtech space is that we've got this technology piece, we've got a great platform, we use third-party data, we use all kinds of stuff that it is that you collect, but we have in-house underwriters who can make exceptions and carve out scenarios on any risk in our highly versatile system. And you're going to be hard pressed to find that on many other insurtechs. We have built a system that is intentionally flexible so that we can have a conversation with you, the agent, who knows the insured better than anyone else. And you can explain to us like, okay, well, this was declined, but here's why I think you should still consider it. And we love that. We want that engagement with you all because oftentimes we do go back and write some of these. Obviously, not always. Obviously, sometimes they're declined for a reason, but we make exceptions to our appetite all the time. So this is just a little plug to encourage you. Like, if you see that declined, if you see that referred, make sure you get it over to us, that referral. All right, so start a new quote. I'm not actually going to go through the whole process of filling this out one by one. I'm going to show you a pre-filled one so it doesn't take as long, but I do want to show you this first page. And the reason is because I can't go back to it in a live quote. This is just basic demographics for the insured, right? So make sure that you go through and you double check everything. You've got all the stuff entered here as it should be. That contact email address, definitely the insured's email address. We're never going to contact them outside of you. We're always going to contact you aside them, but we need to be able to send them documents. This is how it is that we track a lot of stuff in our systems. all of that. So just some basic demographic stuff right here on the front page. Double check to make sure that you got it all in correct, because once you actually hit that next button, you won't be able to go back and fix it. Now you can always start a new quote. You can reach out to us. We can ask the data team to go into it and fix it. That way you don't have to go through the whole quote process again if that's an issue. If you got too far and you don't want to have to do that, but that's a thing. So I just wanted to let y'all know. All right, so I'm going to go back to dashboard. I'm going to grab a quote that is in the bindable state, one that I have personally done. Yeah, here we go. So like I told you, I'm in Colorado now. I used to be back in Southern Ohio, and there was a bunch of Bravo Italian kitchens down there. So I knew this would be a nice sturdy risk to show you all. So I'm going to go back to the underwriting processes, and you get to see a quick preview of everything that it is that we're going to go over today. Okay, so underwriting information. Choose a class. Get questions about this all the time. Please reach out if you have any concerns. But as a general rule, if they are sit-down service, right, then you're going to be looking at casual dining, semi-self-service, that kind of stuff, right? Fine dining is a class that we offer. It is going to be a referral because we only want it on specific places that actually qualify as fine dining, and we can work with you on that. But we just like to keep our eyes on that one as well. Limited cooking is nice and easy. I had somebody reach out to me the other day about ice cream, and they make the cones in-house. It's a great example of limited cooking, right? Because they just have like a little waffle iron press that they use to make the cones. But yeah, definitely ask any questions if you have questions about this. The one big standout that I think most people do wind up asking about is what constitutes commercial cooking, and that is grease-laden vapors, right? So think about like fryers, think about meats on a grill, fatty meats on a grill. Those sort of things are all going to be considered commercial cooking because the vapors that it releases when it cooks has grease in it. Now, if you have a pizzeria and a pizza oven, that's going to be limited cooking because there's not, even if they put a little bit of meat on it or something, it's not going to be grease-laden vapors, right? So that's kind of the difference between the two, if that helps to understand. We write wine bars, love wine bars, but that is going to be a referral class as well, just because of the alcohol dependency there. Anything below that, though, bars and taverns, brews and pubs, mobile food, so food trucks, warehouse or incidental, we don't write those. Those are out of appetite for us. So another thing to kind of mention, though, is that a lot of other insurtechs, MGAs, carriers, if they see the name bar in a restaurant, that'll automatically count as a bar and they're not interested. But that's not how we do it either. So make sure you're like, if you get Jason's Sports Bar and Grill, chances are that's probably still a restaurant. Are they, and we'll come over some of the, I won't preview it now. We'll go over it, but just keep that in mind that we probably still would love to see that risk because in all reality, they're more of a restaurant than they are an actual bar. And we all know it when we see it, right? Like if people are going there just to get drunk, then yeah, it's probably going to be a bar. And that does happen with bar and grills sometimes, but most of the time they are restaurants. So you would probably classify them as casual dining, right? Okay. Do they operate multiple locations? This is important to add. Yeah, please go for it.
So we got a great question here from Victor. Victor said, regarding eligibility, if a casual dining restaurant also has a food truck, is that totally ineligible? Or is it only ineligible when they only have the food truck, but no brick and mortar?
That's a really great question. The problem with food trucks is that we don't have the coverage that it is that they would need to be covered in their food truck operations. So what I would encourage you to do is reach out to our underwriting team. We could consider it, but the big hangup is going to be that we can't write the coverages for that food truck. So that may be something that your insured isn't necessarily interested in. They're probably placed better with someone else. We can take a look at the brick and mortar, but it's with that heavy caveat of we just don't have the coverages that a food truck would need. So it's a really great question, though. I appreciate you asking that.
And I'll just like to add something that I remember Brandi mentioning at a previous webinar was that I'm in Philadelphia now, but I lived in New York City for many years, and a lot of places will have food trucks in like their back patio or something, and those food trucks don't move. And I remember her saying, in that situation, it's more likely that we'll be able to do that because that food truck is not, going down the street. So I don't know. I'm assuming that it seems like the food truck you're talking about does go elsewhere besides the back patio, but just for future reference.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Morgan. That's an excellent point. Thank you. Good. Okay. So multiple locations, we write single location policies, right? This question is in here so that you can get this pop up to understand that if there's multiple locations, we have a specific premises designation form on the policy. Now, all of the time, we write we write restaurants risks with multiple locations. They're just their own policies. Uh, that's the only difference. We're working on a multi-location policy. But the good news is that then, you've got the limits of liability and property on each location, instead of it all being combined too. So there are some benefits to that. I realize it's not going to be for every single insured, but we do write constantly. We do write multi-location policies. They're just on their own policies. Okay, has a business filed any claims? It's pretty self-explanatory. Just fill it out if there has been. Not an automatic kick out. We just want to make sure it's not past a certain point, what type of claim it was, that sort of thing. So, because we have underwriters that will look at that. All right, and that's the leading question here with claims that exceed 50,000, right? Any of the officers ever had any of these things happen? Pretty obvious, declared bankruptcy, etc. So you just fill this out. Does the establishment have stairs? Yes or no. If you say yes, we'll just make sure that it applies to all of this, and you check off that you understand that this is what it is that we require as an underwriting guideline. Okay, so does the establishment offer any of the below? So this is a little bit what I was talking about with the bars, right? This is what I was saying I was going to get to in a moment. These things are all kind of what it is that we look at to see whether or not this risk is really more of a bar than it is a restaurant, right? Do they have a happy hour after 8 p.m.? Do they stay open past midnight? Are there drink specials under $4, right? Now, there's going to be exceptions where you've got a perfectly great restaurant that just happens to be somewhere a little bit more rural and their Bud Light specials a couple times a week or $3 or something, right? Like we can still consider that if they're open past midnight, but their kitchen is also open past midnight. And other locations in the area are open past midnight because that's just the kind of town that it is, right? Those are all things that you're still going to want, we're willing to look at. You're still going to want to select the appropriate box. You may get a declination message, but just like I said at the beginning, we would love it if you reach out to us and said, hey, here's why I would like you to still consider this risk for these reasons. But this is just the general way that using a tech platform, we use to kind of identify like, hey, is this a bar versus is this, a restaurant with alcohol sales? All right. Is there a playground? Again, same as the stairs question. Just make sure that all this, it's not necessarily a kick out. We just want to make sure that all these things are being applied to. So, get in there and take a look if you have one. Does the insured have any of the following exposures? This is food truck, right? This is what we just talked about. This is just a double check to make sure. And then, as Morgan mentioned, that Brandy's talked about in the past, this may get you a decline, but please reach out and let us know, like, hey, it's perfect. It's positioned there constantly. So, please consider it because you don't need any of the mobile coverages as well. Type of fire alarm, burglar alarm. This is all self-explanatory. This is why I didn't want to fill it out as we went so that we can just kind of blaze through some of these. Security cameras. Do they have more than 6 deep fat fryers? This is a little bit of an odd question that you're not used to getting asked. And I don't know that we've ever seen a single risk that has more than 6, but it's in here. And if for some reason the answer is yes, but you still want to us to take a look at it, please let us know. This is just one of the things that we have in there to identify the hazards of a risk. Are you responsible for the park? Is the insured responsible for the parking lot? Again, we're happy to write these. This is just more of a rating question than it is anything else. Okay, these sort of things, this will trip people up every once in a while because we do write policies based on this. Solid fuel, wok, charbroiling. If you check one of these boxes, that does not mean that it's going to be a decline. What that does is it just corresponds to the periods of cooking down here. We follow the National Fire Protection Association's guidelines, which is what every restaurant follows, about how frequently they're supposed to be cleaning their grills. So for instance, if it's a wok, it needs to at least be quarterly, right? So that's what it is that we're checking here, is that the restaurant is doing what it is that all restaurants are going to do anyway. They're going to follow those NFPA guidelines. So if one of these gets checked, that's not a problem at all. Just let us know again how frequently they're cleaning those hoods. Okay, renovation projects, we can still write that. We'll just have a couple questions for you about the duration of it, how extensive it is, that sort of thing. Because obviously we're not offering, builder's risk policies or any of that other inland marine stuff for long-term or large-scale renovations, but a little bit of renovations here and there, we can absolutely still consider it. Cash only is going to be a hard decline. Yeah, there's not really another way to answer that. So this is an important one. Number of full-time employees, part-time employees. hours that it's open a day. All of this you can see kind of feeds into the same stuff that we've already been asking. What year does the establishment open? All right, so we love to write brand new risks. The only thing that it is that if it's brand new, we want to make sure that the management has at least 3 years experience in managing food service. That's it. But we write new ventures all the time. I love them. And I mean, that's kind of the restaurant gig too. They're popping up all the time. Ownership structure, maximum occupancy, all of this is pretty standard stuff. Okay. So estimated establishments estimated annual sales, we can do up to 10 million in annual sales, which is a pretty high limit, which, even though we write on BOPs, which if I didn't cover, I apologize. Our paper's BOP. I should have mentioned this at the very beginning. We are structured as an MGA, which means that we do and look just like a carrier with one big exception. We write on Accelerant's paper. Accelerant is AM Best rated A minus excellent. And we got all kinds of materials. You can look them up on AM Best yourself, that sort of thing. But we handle all the rest of it. And it's just Accelerant's paper that we use. So that being said, even though it's on a BOP, up to 10 million in sales is pretty high for BOP. So just keep that in mind. We can write some pretty large risks sometimes. Okay, so general liability limits. We can do up to 2.4. We're working on adding an excess/umbrella. We've got it sort of in the test phase. It should be coming live here very soon. But in the meantime, those 2.4 limits can help go a long way for that as well. Because as you know, most of the time you're getting 1.2 offered as standard from most folks. Now that will be a referral, so just keep that in mind. Our underwriting team will want to look at it. They want to make sure that there is a good reason to have the 2.4, not just because it sounded nice, but they used to have it. It's required by contract, that sort of thing. Okay, off-premises catering, not a problem. We just want to know the percentage. Do they serve alcohol? This is always the big question, right? Do you want to add liquor liability? Like I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned anyway, we can do up to 65% in liquor sales. That is huge for an admitted market. There are not anybody else that I'm aware of that writes up to that limit. Now that will require a referral. Our underwriting team will want to look at it, but we realize that just because they have more expensive drinks than somewhere else does not mean that it's a bar. Does not mean that it carries the same risks as a bar. There are plenty of fine dining places in particular that have very expensive drinks where your bill can be half, if not more, of alcohol and drinks. So keep that in mind. Up to 65% is a great selling feature. Liquor liability limit, we can do up to 1 mil. Obviously, this is independent of the GL limit, so make sure you select what it is that your insured needs. HNOA, we can add that as long as they are not doing self-delivery. Again, that shouldn't be a surprise to any of you, I imagine. So pizzerias, we love them. Just don't want to write HNOA if they do self-delivery. We can do third-party delivery. Uber Eats, DoorDash, all of that is great. If you check that box, not a problem. We cannot do robotic delivery, though, which is kind of a newer thing, if it even continues to exist. I'm told that if you look up the videos, it's hilarious. I haven't actually seen them. The only time I've seen them is in an airport, and I always thought it was really neat, but apparently they exist outside of airports, too. Okay. Construction type. If you have any questions about this, our underwriters are really great at kind of figuring it out through online materials and whatnot. If you're concerned that you don't know what it is, but all of these are open. Just because it's framed doesn't mean we're not going to write it. It's just a rating question and help us understand the risk that we're on. What year is the building built? Roof replaced? Roof type? All this is standard. Is it fire sprinkler? Again, not going to go through all of this. How much is occupied by the insured? What BPP limit do you need? Do you want to add building coverage? Yes. If you do not, you get a pop-up that asks you if you want tenants improvements and betterment limit instead. Okay. So Mines and Sidons is only available in Indiana. So for this Ohio risk that I quoted, I said no. Please select AOP, all other peril. We just give you an opportunity to select the deductible you want for that. Wind hail, this is an important one to kind of set aside because you want to make sure that you leave it at whatever level it is that it comes in at. And if you want to add something increased beyond that, 2%, 5%, remove wind and hail coverage, you can do that. But if I was to select no separate deductible, it would decline me for wind and hail purposes. So one of the things that we use data for is to determine what we want to set our wind hail deductible percentage at. So whatever it is that it is set up to, when you come to this point in the quote, you can increase it, but you cannot decrease it. And if for some reason you get that error of like, hey, this is being declined for this reason, you just have to go back to what it originally was and you'll clear that decline out. All right. Standalone building attached to habitational. These are not automatic kickouts, but there are some things like if it's attached to habitational, we want to make sure that it's owner that lives in the habitation. It's surrounded by firewalls, like these sort of things that can help make sure that it's properly protected. Okay, our primary package can have the Premier package added to it. And this is something that you're pretty used to seeing in a lot of stuff. But one thing that we do that's very unique is that we have all of these customizable coverages. And I'll show you those in the quote flow here in just a moment. But just know that this is here when you click on it to show you what the primary coverage offers and all this Premier stuff. So obviously tons of different things that you get just by adding that in. And it's definitely something you're going to want to consider for your insured. Do you want to increase the wine collection coverage? Would you like to add cyber suites? All of these things, they can relate back to whatever page that was on. Yes, the customizable coverages, right? So we wanted to add cyber. We get to choose our limits and our deductible. Questions on cyber. More questions on cyber. This is a third party that we use, by the way. We offer cyber and Epley through Hartford Steam Boiler. And then we also offer equipment breakdown through Mutual Boiler Re. So some very well-known names in the industry, some high standards for those coverages, but you're going to have the options to add all that. And then you're going to get questionnaires associated with what they need in order to provide that coverage. Okay, so we selected Epley, so now we've got to the Epley questions portion, what limits you want. Do you want to add additional coverages or customize? This is what I was showing you earlier. If you click yes, you can go into all those different ways to customize that it shows in that Premier package. We're going to say no and just move on. Blanket additional insureds, blanket waiver of sub, add it. We don't charge for it. Might as well add it. If you want to do individual additional interests, you can always add it here and list them out. You can always reach out to us after time to endorse the policy, but you're going to save yourself and the insured a bunch of time if you just put it on a blanket. So you might as well, since we don't charge for it. Okay, this is a great page because we offer discounts in so many different ways, right? So go through it, read it. If they're a member of an association, Google profile, are they part of a franchise? I don't know how that got entered there. That must have been me at some point. Additional credits are based on business practices. Do you want to select to add them? We offer all kinds of different stuff here, right? So you can see all of that here. And then finally, even if none of these apply, or even if they do, we have a box where you can submit this to underwriting for additional pricing considerations. And what's really great about this is that you can provide some information to that too. Like I would love, what we want, actually, before I say that, what we would really love for you to do when you fill this part out is let us know what your target premium is so that we can try to aim toward that and see what we can get for, right? That'll save a lot of the back and forth. That'll help us know like whether or not we're going to be a market for you, and we can answer the question a lot more quickly. But if you come back and you say, can you get me as many credits as possible to get me down to $5,000 premium or whatever the case may be? That's going to help our underwriters out tremendously. And you can provide narratives here. You can always email them to us, chat in, that sort of thing. We love to see that kind of stuff. The more, the better, because we do truly underwrite these risks. Effective date, pretty self-explanatory. We can backdate per request. Obviously, there's going to be some things that go along with that, like a no loss letter. We're not going to want to do it for very far. There's going to be a need to be a reason why. Just don't let it discourage you if that is a circumstance that you and your insured come across. Reach out to us, have a conversation. We'll take a look. Okay, one of the last screens here. We have three different main payment methods or payment intervals, right? So pay monthly and pay in full. You're used to seeing that pretty much anywhere. Pay in full gets a 5% discount, so that's great. Pay as you go, however, is something that we offer that is unique in the market. Because restaurants have a tendency to fluctuate in their sales, just due to seasonality and various other factors, pay as you go has been a phenomenal offering that we give to restaurants that obviously we specialize in, right? So what that does is it allows the business owner to submit their retail sales on a monthly basis, their revenue on a monthly basis, and then we will rate according to it, just like you've seen in like work comp scenarios, where you take a look at the payroll on a monthly basis. That way it saves the audit process on the back end, and the insured is only paying based off of what it is that they're actually doing in sales, since that's how we rate. If you have any questions about that, we'd love to hear it. There's a lot of modern systems like Toast, which is one of the most predominant point of sale systems, POSs in the industry. It will just automatically send it. You just put in service at userainbow.com to have those monthly statements automatically sent, and the insured doesn't even have to touch it. So that's obviously the best scenario in which you can set up pay as you go. One thing to note is that we do not take a down payment with pay as you go, except for 50 cents. We put 50 cents in to make sure that everything processes okay. And then after that, because it's pay as you go, they will pay after the month sales is received, right? Whereas with pay monthly, you're going to have a down payment. Now, for some reason, the insured misses it and they're just unresponsive. We can't get those sales from them. We will default back to a pay monthly scenario, in which case they will be charged both the down payment and that month. So it can be a little bit of a shock. Just a heads up, as long as they're staying on top of submitting the sales or have it done automatically, then that's not an issue. Let us know if you have any questions because it is kind of a unique thing in the market. Questions are certainly understandable, but it's kind of a cool feature to be able to offer your restaurants. Okay, so last thing to show you is the final page. If for some reason this needed to be referred or was declined, that would show up here, and you'll have an option to click the referral button to send it over to the insureds. This one went straight through. We'd still love to hear from you, even if it goes straight through and you want to talk about something, you don't like the price, you want to work on some aspect of it, reach out. That's why we're here. That's what makes us so special, right? Is that you can have a completely autonomous, straight through process with using tech, or you can reach out, build relationships with us, help us understand the risks that it is that we're getting on, and help us understand the price that your insured deserves to have because they're an outstanding risk or whatever the case may be. So we love that kind of stuff. And we continue to offer even more discounts. So you can download the quote. We have something called Rainbow Rewards, where they could save an extra $1,000 on this risk if they select to do Rainbow Rewards. So we'll apply it so I can show you what that is. It's a simple to use. You can even send it directly to the insured so they can do this themselves, but they upload 5 different photos of these different areas around their restaurant so that we can see that they're keeping up with practices and cleanliness and that sort of thing. And they get $1,000 off of this quote. Now it's a percentage, so it's obviously going to be different for each insured, but that's a huge savings for just uploading 5 photos for our underwriters to be able to review. So definitely worth checking out. Plus, when you do that and you send that off to them, they can pay remotely as well. They can put in their credit card information. Last to note is that we can also do ACH besides just credit card. We're still kind of in the growing phase with ACH. So you need to reach out to us if you want to add that to your policy, but we can do that relatively easy. We'll switch it over to ACH and then you'll have the option to go in and put bank information in for your insured. Okay, so that's it for the demo. I'm sure that there are questions, but one last thing that I want to show is our website. Again, Morgan's done a phenomenal job of keeping this updated. We showed you where all the agent resources were. Login is here. You can come and find all kinds of additional stuff. Availability is something I always like to show because we are constantly adding new states. It's every couple of weeks. We just launched in California, as many of you have seen, because we have made a big to-do out of it, and it's been huge for us as well. We've loved the response that we've gotten in California and in all of our states. So we're continuing to grow them. Accelerant's been a phenomenal partner, and they are stoked to see the growth and excited to grow in even more states with us too. So even if your state's not on this list, keep an eye out because it will continue to grow. Those blue states are the ones that are coming. All right, and that's it. Do we have any questions, Morgan?
We do not have any questions that I can see at the moment. But we can totally stay on for a couple more minutes and wait and see if folks have a question. Looks like Andrea has a raised hand. I don't know if you meant to do that, Andrea, but we don't have audio or visual for our participants most of the time, but if there are no other questions, we can unmute and Andrea asked, is there a method to upload docs for the underwriters?
So not within the dashboard itself, but you can upload them through using our little chat feature or which is present on every single page, whether you're logged in or on our website or whatever. And honestly, most days you're going to wind up talking to me, but you can attach the documents there, or you can send them to underwriting at Use Rainbow. Either way, we're happy to take them and we review them right away. Something I should have mentioned, another thing that it is that kind of stands out in the market for us is our underwriting turnaround time. The SLAs for it right now are an hour. That's what it is that we ask that you give us once you've hit a submission on something, and our underwriters get back to you that quickly. That's been one of the reasons that we've just kind of blown up in popularity. It's not just because we have a phenomenal user experience and we've got great products that are specifically tailored to restaurants, but we care about you and your insured, and we do our best to answer you as quick as possible. And every single day I hear about how surprised agents are that our underwriters are so friendly and turn around things so incredibly quickly. yeah, our SLAs are an hour. So reach out with those things and we will get back to you right away. Anything else?
Not yet. Wait another minute.
As I'm talking, I'm typing in chat right now too. So that's a, that's how much we want to make sure that we get to y'all as quick as possible. Okay. I will share my contact information unless you've done that already, Morgan. I'm
No.
assuming you haven't, right? Okay, let me type it into chat, and I will add that use Rainbow as well, that underwriting at use Rainbow. So my name is Jason Johnson. Again, you can reach out to me for anything that it is that you need. I do work with the underwriters on underwriting some stuff as well, but for the most part, my job here is to make sure that your experience is as smooth as possible. So I man the chats, I watch the emails, take calls, all of those things. Like I tend to be your first point of contact and make sure that we get you set up for success. But our underwriters love to hear directly from you as well. So please reach out to underwriting at userainbow.com as well, or use that chat feature, which let me share screen again really quick just so you can see it. Okay, so it's present on every single screen. You just click into it, type it up, and right there you'll be able to say hi to Jason. So we'll say hi, Jason. And oh, of course I didn't share the right screen, but it immediately pops right up to me, and that's me on the other line that is able to talk to you and say hi. So there it is.
We have a
So reach
question.
out. We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. We have a question from Andrea, who said, I have an ABC licensing question. Can we write a risk while ABC is pending?
As in the organization ABC, like the agency is not appointed yet. Oh, I see. Okay. Reach out to us. I would want the underwriters to take a look at that. I would say that we could still consider it. Obviously, it's going to be a factor of like what exactly pending means. And you'll have to forgive me, I'm not personally familiar with the California laws on that. If pending means that it's imminent, then chances are we probably can work with you on that and just make sure that we get a good bind date. But if pending is still up in the air and they're not sure whether or not they're going to get it, that may be a different story. Um, yeah, yeah, thank you. Now that you say that, it's ringing bells. But either way, like I would certainly encourage you to still reach out to us on that because that's something we can still consider. Absolutely. All right. Y'all, this has been a blast. I love this every single week. I love to see our agents come out and ask all these questions. It's why I do what I do. I don't want to speak for Morgan. Morgan has fun too, though, don't you?
Terrible time. Hey.
Y'all have a fantastic week. Reach out with anything that you need. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
See ya.